Hi guys, welcome back to Infinite Possibilities, the podcast where we explore the lives of amazing people, their choices, challenges and opportunities. And today I have a very special guest, Brian Kerle.
Hi Karen, how are you?
Good, thanks for having me over.
Hey, pleasure. And good evening or good afternoon to everybody out there that's listening. Thank you.
Yeah, and before we start, shall we show this cool basketball you have? Who's it signed by, Brian?
This basketball is signed by the greatest basketball Australia's ever produced, and he's an Aboriginal man or Torres Strait Islander, and his name is Paddy Mills, and he plays in the NBA in America, but he led Australia to a bronze medal this year in the Tokyo Olympics, and a very good friend of mine, and an out and out really top guy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Shall we? Wow, and people listening to podcast audio, you can't see it, but yeah, oh well. Okay, so Brian, you're probably one of my most famous friends that you're the most famous person I know pretty much, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So Brian Kerle, you can do your own intro to make it justice, but was it 2 world championships for basketball?
Well, I started playing basketball way back in 1965 and 1965, 66 sort of thing. And my first World Championships were in 1970 in Yugoslavia, as it was then. As we all know now, it's the country has now been cut up into different countries, so which is a very, very strong basketball nation. And my first games were in Sarajevo in Yugoslavia, which was very famous about the start of World War II, to be honest. And it's a beautiful city, and so we played there, and we weren't very successful, but we had a pretty good time and met a lot of different type of people, good people, and Yugoslavia was struggling at that time.
Yeah. And then what about the second World Championship? Where was that?
That was in Puerto Rico, which is just off the coast of America, and I think it's nearly another state of America because so many Puerto Ricans live in America. But yeah, only a small island, but it was towards the end of my career. I was actually bought out of retirement to go back over there, sort of thing, to help out because I was short on numbers. But yeah, great time, great memories about the place, and so played in 2 of them, 2 World Championships, and also I coached later on.
And then the Olympics, Brian made it. Yeah, Munich Olympics.
Munich Olympics, 1972, which is known, unfortunately, it should be known as the Olympic Games for athletes, but that's when the Palestinian terrorists took the lives of some Israeli athletes in the village and out near the airport when they were trying to escape. But yeah, it was a memorable time for me to play in my first Olympics, and I do remember a lot of great things in the Olympics itself. But those people, what happened, I don't believe those things should happen in world, and people shouldn't use sporting events to make a statement. But yeah, we had a big meeting, a big gathering, all the athletes of the world in the athletics stadium in Munich, and decided, we wanted to go on, play the games, and we all, took a vote on that, and it was unanimous. Everyone, if anyone wanted to leave, they could leave. There was no animosity towards it because everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But it was sad that it happened, but my first Olympic Games, and it's a great memory. Olympics, unbelievable an event, and I saw some of our great athletes win gold and win silver medals over there. So that was a highlight for me as well, and I saw the Australian hockey team win a gold medal. Unfortunately, we finished 8th out of 16 teams, but that was pretty good for us in those days, and we did well, and we're a little bit unlucky. We lost a couple of games by 1 point.
Yeah, but we're definitely going to touch on that later. This is just the intro.
Oh, this is the intro.
Yeah,
oh,
my bad. Because Brian's fancy titles, it was hard to recite to memory. Yeah, and just quickly, so what about in terms of coaching? Just a quick statement before we launch right in.
Yeah, well, my coaching career started in 1979, where I coached down in Melbourne at St Kilda Basketball Club, the Mighty Saints, which I was there for 17 years and playing and coaching. So and then 88 we. 1980, first of all, the World Championships in Barcelona in Spain, which was a great trip as well, and we didn't do all that well, but unfortunately, but 82 at the Korean in Seoul Olympics was a different story. We did very well there.
Yeah, okay, cool. So, I'm thinking that we'll go right from the beginning to see, what kind of childhood Brian had and see what it kind of takes to, I guess, make it in basketball. Yeah. So Brian, you told me that your father was a police officer. Yeah. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, my father's a police officer, and I learnt a lot about the word respect,
yes.
and also strict. He was a very strict man, and sometimes I thought he was over the top, but I was only a youngster. But no, I thought and my dad was good. He taught me respect females, ladies, women,
yes.
Which I still practice today, and I'm very sympathetic. Not sympathy. I don't think women don't need sympathy, but what's the word?
Empathy.
Empathy, yeah. Because but that's how I am. But yeah, Dad he never played basketball. He played cricket. He played cricket and football, rugby league, and he was a big man, not as tall as myself, but a big man. Loved to play for rugby league. But when I took up basketball, he was taken aback a bit because basketball was frowned upon in those, not frowned upon, but people thought it was a bit of a sissy's game and things like that. So anyway, but he saw all my triumphs here in Australia in my NBL championships and things like that.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, and generally when people if they have a father or mother that is a police officer, when you're a child, you sort of I guess almost want to mimic their kind of career path. Was being a police officer, a thought that ever occurred to you?
It did, and my father always wanted me to be one. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I failed the eyesight test. I was short-sighted, and so I failed the police test, and my father was very disappointed. And as a youngster, and I was a little bit disappointed that he was disappointed.
Yeah.
And I thought that there and then I was going to set out to make my father proud of me, and I was going to control my own destiny. And that's why it was great that basketball came along and saved me in a lot of ways, and because I could have gone this way or that way, and but yeah, so I just wanted to make him really proud of what I'd doing and achieved. So. And then the support came later on from him, and he never missed any of my championship games and things like that. So that was great to have that, and because, like I said, my dad was very strict and things like that. But today, I think that's what's missing from our society anyway. But not saying that it has to be real tough discipline, but I think a lot of young kids and that need to learn that word, how to spell it at least. That's what I think.
Bit too soft this generation.
Yeah. Well, I think they get away with too much, and there's not as much discipline in schools as there used to be, and the police are the same. They're restricted in what they can do now. But so, if I played up at school, I copped it at school, and when I got home, my dad was waiting for me there. So, but I think that's made me a pretty decent sort of a guy, and somebody that appreciates that, and now I try to instill that into young people also.
Yeah, wow. And were you, I guess, scared of your father growing up? Man, police officer.
Yeah, well, I wasn't scared of him, but I was scared of the police belt when I copped that on the bottom. Yeah. But it was like I said, the one time they really copped it, I did deserve it probably, but it helped me in life. It helped me to be a lot more disciplined and think about decisions that I make and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool. And right before you got into basketball, you told me you were a tennis player. Was that right?
Yeah, well, I played a bit of cricket as well because my father I used to watch him every weekend play cricket because in those days there was no PlayStations or phones or our only form of entertainment was a radio with a car battery plugged into it. And that's all you listened to. You didn't have anything else. And another story, my dad, I used to get into trouble, which I tell young kids today. These days we're trying to get young kids out of the house and exercise and get off the computers. I used to get into trouble because we used to play cricket or football between the police station and the house, and we'd mow our own cricket pitch. And I'd get into trouble. I'd get into trouble because dark come, we didn't want to come in and have dinner. And a few times I copped a little smack around the ear because I thought. So in those days, we weren't allowed to stay out there after dark, but now we can't get them out there at all. So that was another good learning situation for me as well with him.
Yeah, so did you always love sports when you were younger? Did you start at very young age?
Always. I used to remember walking around the house. We lived in a little town called Rosedale, just north of Bundaberg, and I'd be listening to the Davis Cup, tennis, which was on ABC radio, the only sport you could get, and also I'd be listening to rugby league test matches and also the cricket. When Australia was playing test match cricket, I listened to all that, and I had a love of sport. And like I said, after school every day, I'd play tennis or we'd play cricket I used to play tennis against the primary school. There was only 49 kids in our school, and there was 9 kids in my grade. So I used to play tennis with the headmaster's daughter, who was deaf and dumb, and. But we used to have some great battles and things like that. So I've always played sport, love it, and I think it's the best thing out for anybody, young and old, not just young people. I think if you're capable and you're able, get out there and play sport or exercise.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. So Brian, were you you have a love of sports? So did that mean you were not a very good student? How was schooling for you?
I told you not to ask me that question. You know. No, I wasn't. I was a good student up to a certain stage, but one of the things I do with all the kids I coach these days, I encourage them to stay in school, and they look at me and things like that. I say, who likes school? And all the kids don't put their hand up, but I try to explain to them, I left school before I started year 10, and you shouldn't have regrets in life, but that's the biggest regret I ever had. I dropped out. My mother and father separated and things like that. We were living in Mount Isa. I wasn't happy living at home, so I came down to Brisbane and lived with my auntie. But it wasn't a pleasant situation, but that's what I did. And things happen for a reason, and so be it. But I encourage kids, stay in school. It's very, very important for you. I wish now that but I've achieved a heck of a lot, a real lot in my life. But what could I have achieved if I had probably a little bit better education?
Yeah. So what was going on around that time? Was it maybe the teachers that you didn't like per se, or the school curriculum, of course, isn't perfect in any way?
No, it wasn't the curriculum or anything like that. I didn't, I did a commercial course because there was only two of us, two guys, myself and another guy, and the rest of the class were girls, so maybe that was a mistake. That was the mistake I made. But look, and then with the family side of things, and I just wasn't happy, and I left home at I think it was just over 15 years of age, and came down to Melbourne and found my way down here, and I was lucky, but unfortunate in some ways. But I missed that family life.
And what do you think school would have given you? Because I'm in grade 10, that's you, I guess, have done schooling for 10 years. That's quite a lot. And I don't know, an extra 2 years to finish grade 12. I don't know if it would have actually made that much of a difference per se.
I think it would have made a lot of difference. It would have,
enhanced vocabulary, or what are we talking about?
Well, I think I talk pretty well, and my English is not too bad. I can add up, to 10
What's
and
on
things.
this one?
So no, look, but but the way the world has evolved now, you can't get by on the education that what I did. Now you've got to, you know, with all our technology stuff, our computers, our phones. Like even now, I've got to get my son Toby to help me with my phone if I got anything wrong with it, or the computer. I said, mate, what am I doing wrong here? So I think if I was educated a lot more, that would have helped. But in saying that as well, you know, when I, you know, later on in the history of what we're going to talk about with my coaching history and things like that, how many times I've been sacked and what have you. I did work for the government, and I was, let me tell you now, I was 55 years old, nearly 55 I think it was. I worked with the government. I didn't know how, when I went in there, they sat me in front of the computer, and I didn't know how to turn it on. So, you know, that was a bit embarrassing, but I'm the sort of guy that I will try, and I'll work, you know, do the best I can with it, and I'm pretty determined. I don't like coming second, I don't like losing. So, you know, I did, and the government was great to work for, because they put you through courses and things like that, how to set up the, you know, but I didn't even know how to turn the computer on the day I sat down in front of it. But I had a good friend at work that worked with me. He was from Manchester in England. He's still a great friend of mine now. He lives here in Brisbane. And we still laugh about it, how I didn't know how, you know, and I was working with a whole bunch of people that were all university students. To work in the government and be a public servant, you virtually had to have a university degree. I had nothing. I had a degree in street smarts, that's all I had.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Because technology wasn't around back then, so to be honest, you wouldn't have learnt that anyways, if that makes you feel slightly better. But yeah, so first, like, just in terms of career path, we see, I guess, the opportunity for police officer kind of closed, and then, so I guess, previously, did you ever consider going to university, or was that not really? It
was never a thought of mine, no. I love sports so much and things like that. No, I didn't. And, you know, when I came down to Brisbane, you know, I got myself a job in a fruit shop. I was stacking fruit. I was carrying 20, 30 bags of potatoes from the truck into the side of the shop. I did that for a couple of years, and then I got a job. I knew I was going nowhere sort of thing, and I got a job with Dunlop Tyre Service in the Valley, and I started off there as like a labourer and things like that, and then I got into a salesperson's job and things like that. But, you know, and that's when I took up basketball as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. So from that point onwards, it was very clear that you wanted to have a career in sports, so almost from like a quite early age, so like 15-ish?
Well, it wasn't planned, Karen. You know, I believe things happens in life for a reason. All right, and I was playing a lot of tennis, okay, and I was working at Dunlop Tyre. So we used to play in the second tier at basketball tournaments around southeast Queensland, from Gympie, Bundaberg up to Toowoomba, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, and Brisbane, and playing little mini tournaments of a weekend. That's what we did. But a couple of friends of mine and I was tall like I am now, but I was really skinny, and we weren't very strong, me and two of my mates. So we went to the Wollongobba Police Boys Club and joined that club because we wanted to do weights. Yeah. And so we went in there, and we were working out in the gym, and it wasn't gyms like you see today. Yeah. And that's when life changed for me. So I went into this and the police officer on the front counter said, Brian, you should play basketball, because there was a basketball club out the back, outside in this court, that was a 3/4 uneven court, a rusty cyclone fence around it, and a couple of 40-watt globes over the basket, and they were just wooden backboards. And I went out there and trained with them one night, and I quit basketball 2 weeks, tennis, 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And that's how it happened. Yeah. So I think it was meant to happen, and there was there was something there for Brian Kerle, because I always wanted to be somebody. I wanted to do something to make my father proud, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
So, and this is how it happened.
Yeah.
Just like that.
And what was it like, I don't know, when you first decided to play basketball in that sort of like little dodgy small area? What was it that appealed to you? Because you've been, up to this point, you've been doing tennis and doing other sports and cricket for quite a while. So like, what made you, I don't know, drop it? Or did you think you like, oh, I have an edge in basketball because I'm tall?
Well, I had a very good coach. He was an old gentleman, but a great gentleman. It was a soccer team that were playing basketball in their off season, and look, we went through the season undefeated and lost the grand final, which I wasn't happy about because I love to win all the time, like I said, and I was probably obsessive about winning, and that's another story. But so it just changed me, and I loved the game. It just felt like, but as if something drew me there. Something was telling me, "Hey, Brian, this is your calling." If that's what the right, and that's your calling in life. This is something that you could do well at, and but it led me to so many other things as well. I only played basketball here for 18 months, and then got recruited to Melbourne, of course.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, like, man, like, would you have been the next Brian Kerle, tennis player, Brian Kerle, cricket?
No, I don't think so. I was okay, but this appealed to me more. And at cricket you can stand around, and you go in and bat and sit and bat and bat the end of the day, and you get out first ball or something like that. But it was great. But basketball, it was a lot of movement and a lot of playing and running up and down, and it is a very skillful game, as you all know. So that was probably the reason about why I did what I did, and but something inside me was telling me, Brian, you need to play basketball. You should play basketball. Something was in there. Yeah. Like I said, it was meant to be.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that you said that back in the day, basketball had none of that prestige. So what was it like, I guess, telling your father?
Well, you see, basketball, it just changed its name from netball to basketball because there was a clash there. So there was silence at first when I told him, and because I was down here in Brisbane, he was up in Mount Isa still, and he didn't know anything about basketball either. And like I said, I never saw that basketball. I was 2 months off being 21 years of age when I took up basketball, and that is very rare. I coach 40 kids today, and the oldest one was 15. So these kids today have got such a wonderful opportunity. I never had, and I was talking to the kids today. I said, you guys, it was called an Olympian camp. I said, you guys, you need to know, if you want to be an Olympian, what it takes to be an Olympian. And it's you've got to make the right choices, do the right things. And I just said to them, hey, the opportunities are there. I could do it. And I said, I'm envious of you guys. There's some of you here that are 11, 12, 13. I didn't know what basketball was then when I was 11, 12 or 13. So, and these kids, some of them have been playing for 2 or 3, 4 years, 5 years now. So they got a distinct advantage, and I'm envious, but I love it. And I'm not saying I wished I had had their opportunities, in other words.
Yeah. So I guess when you started basketball, so if you're starting at 21 years of age, what was, I guess, the average age of the people you are? Have they been doing it for much longer than you have? Because it was quite, I guess, a new-ish sport because it got rebranded.
It was very newish.
So you wouldn't have been like the oldest, like, to start, I guess.
No, but I had a couple of guys, probably 1 or 2 years older than me. We played in a senior team. It wasn't a junior team.
Seniors at age 21.
Yeah. So and senior competition, and some of the guys were a couple of years younger than me as well, but had been playing basketball for a lot longer than what I had. I was, I only played for that the Oxley Soccer Club for 1 season, and then. We like I said, we went through undefeated and got beaten by Lang Park Police Boys Club. Yeah. So the soccer club finished playing, so I joined Lang Park because I wanted to win. So, we won B grade there, and then I went straight into A grade. So I played A grade basketball. Second year I played A grade basketball. So that was the thing, and I was a gentleman, and great guy, a real good mentor of mine. unfortunately he's not with us today, but Vince Hickey, he took me under his wing and spent time with me, and he was a great basketball coach and loved the game. And you know, I dedicated a lot of my first championship up here to Vince Hickey because of what he meant to basketball up here. But what he did for me, it's a very tough thing, you know, because he just meant so much to me. And as you get older, you start to appreciate people more, and you think, hey, you know, and it was just like my dad, you know, he didn't like the game, didn't want me to play because he didn't want basketball, but he came to all my big wins and watched me play, and then he watched me coach. So, you know, I won him over, and I made him proud of me, and he was very proud of me because he loved talking to people about me. So that made up for missing out in the police force. So
yeah, that's cool. I would definitely touch on, you know, Vince Hickey a bit later on. But yeah, so when you first started basketball, I'm kind of curious, did you like instantly, I guess, have that talent, or would you say it's the, you know, having that gift, or mainly hard work?
No, I wasn't a gifted athlete.
Oh, wow, I'm
and
surprised.
I was the typical white man can't jump. So that's for sure. But I had a passion for hard work, and I trained hard, and what I lacked in natural ability and athleticism and things like that, I made up for with heart. And I would train and train and train. And later on, when I went to Melbourne, there's a number of stories there, what I did to get to the Olympic Games. And I was telling the kids yesterday and today about it as well. You know, in '68, I watched the Australian Olympic team preparing to go to Mexico to qualify for the '68 Olympic Games, and I sat and watched them train, and I just went around the whole 12 players, and I said, I can be better than him, and him. This is what I want to be in the 1972 Olympic Games. So, but I knew what it was going to take. I didn't have the resources and things like that, but I knew the sacrifices I'd have to make. But I wanted it. And like I said to the kids today, you can be anything that you want to be. Nothing will stop you as long as you want to do it.
Yeah. Wow. I haven't even asked you about that bit yet. Brian is going very, very fast. But yeah, so when you started first playing, and then your mentor came along, like, was it 2 years later, or what was
No,
the
Vince,
time?
well, we played, I think it was for 3 months with the Oxley Club, and then Vince walked into the garage where I worked in the Valley, and
Where you worked, as in, like, you were...
I was a tyre fitter with Dunlop tyres, and this guy walked in, and I'd seen him once or twice, and he said, Brian, you know, I'm Vince Hickey, I'd like you to come and play for Lang Park Police Boys Club. And he said, we've got a Australia Day tournament up in Rockhampton, and we want to know, you want to come up and play for us, we want you. Well, I didn't even know what he was talking about. And so I asked him a bit more about it, and I said, yeah, Vince, I'll go up there, and which I did. And
Wait, how did he even know about you?
Well, he was with the club that I played it, because we played.
Had a good record.
Yeah, well, you know, but you know, we struck it off straight away. Like I said, he used to come when I went to Melbourne later on. He came down and watched us play and watched us win NBL titles and things like that. Superman, and you know, I owe so much to him to this day. I owe him a lot.
Yeah, and what was it about him that was so special? Was he the first person who believed in you?
He did believe in me. I think he was definitely the first person that believed in me. He used to take me to a school that was one of the few schools, or the only school in Brisbane that had a outdoor basketball court, and he was teaching me how to shoot the basketball, teaching me some drills and things like that. Unfortunately, Vince went to New Guinea and came back, and he got a disease in his kidneys, and he had to go on dialysis and things like that. So, you know, and it slowed Vince down. He had a clothing business where he used to make uniforms and things like that, and but we'd sit for hours and talk about basketball, and talk about things that I couldn't even remember because I didn't know what we was talking about. But you know, he had the time of day for me, always had the time for me, and supported me he was just an incredible man. Yeah, he's like a second father to me in lots of ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and before Vince Hickey came along, did you ever, I guess, get any encouragement from other people? Did they really, I mean, it must have been quite competitive.
Well, yeah, and basketball can be a funny community, and there was a lot of
haters.
Yeah, a lot of haters, and a lot of people who we played against in the clubs. There was, I learned it very early, but and I didn't know about it because I didn't want to get tied up in that. I just wanted to play the game and have fun. But there was doubters, and like when I left Brisbane to go to Melbourne, a lot of the, what do you call them, the tall poppy syndrome that Australians have. I was told that I'd never make second division, I might make third division, or would never make first division when I went to Melbourne to play. They told me that. And
what was that based off? I mean, like, you're pretty tall. Or were you a shorty?
Well, a lot of it was jealousy about me going down there.
Yeah.
That's that tall poppy system, syndrome. And I think, and that's what I tell kids, if I had to listen to those people telling me that I wouldn't be sitting here with you now.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't want to know me. Because I haven't done what I've done. So, I would have been just Brian Kerle, citizen. And so that was important to me. And I say, and I tell kids, I told them yesterday and today, and I tell them all the time, you can be whatever you want to be. Don't let anybody decide what you want to be. So that's important that you do that. And I did that and went in there and proved everybody wrong. Within a couple of years I played for Australia, so that's what it's all
Olympics.
about. Yes.
Yeah, and wait, can you quickly explain the tall poppy system? So, like, I was trying to think, what does that mean? I guess,
The tall poppy is
so
it's
tall
people are jealous. No, it's nothing to that. People just like to knock people down. Australians like to put people down, and anybody that's successful, it's a jealousy thing, and it's a sad thing. I think anybody, like, I don't get envious of anybody that makes it to the top. I'm pleased for them. I'm happy for them, and I want to be friends with them and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, but tall poppy. But anyway, then, like I said, after that, when I took up coaching, they told me I wouldn't be able to coach and I wouldn't get anywhere with that. So
yeah, we'll get to that. Wait a sec. Okay. Slow down, Brian. Wait, okay. So just like tracing back to your timeline. So you started basketball at age 21, and then around 3 years later, you played for Australia. You flew down to Melbourne, like after 2 or so years for playing in Brisbane.
I played for 18 months up here.
Yeah.
And Brisbane was in a conference where there was teams from Melbourne, Sydney, Newcastle, and Illawarra, and we played in the second tier, like Australian club competition type sort of thing. And this St Kilda team came up here and played against us, and after the game, the manager of the team, Bruce Johnson, who turned out to be another great friend of mine, not with me today either, but Bruce said, you want to come down and play for us in Melbourne.
Oh.
Now, this is a big step for me because, I think I'd only been over the border once in my life. And, so to go to Melbourne, was a big thing. And, and once more I did. I was engaged at the time, and so I said, look, I'll come down for 2 months, give it a try out, see if I like it, because I didn't know what I was doing. And so I did, and I was there 6 weeks, and I said, I'm going back home, I'm going to get married, and I'll come back down. So that's how it happened. But interesting life, and talking about it now, it just brings back a lot of memories as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. Wait, and then so just like that, when he's like, come to Melbourne, this opportunity, you just... Or was there a moment of hesitation? Because I can imagine right now, if someone offered me a job, I don't know, I would really have to mull over it for a long time.
It is a big decision to make, and it's a big decision for anybody. And I've got a young boy in my academy now up here. I'm running a private academy and full time. And he come up from Melbourne to here. Oh. And, he's only 20 years old as well, Tori. And I said, mate, I have talks to him. I said, mate, I know what you're going through. I said, you know, you've got to settle in here. You don't know people. You're playing basketball again with people you don't know and things like that. He's settled in really well now. So it is a big decision for anybody to make. It's the same with players that want to go to college in America.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a big decision too.
Yeah, crazy. And so, you know, take me back. What was it like for little Brisbane boy to go to Melbourne? Like, was there any, I don't know, culture shock or big city?
Well, it was a big culture shock in lots of ways, because you got two great cities. One's got great weather and is a good city. The other is a good city but terrible weather. That was a big thing to get used to. And I was up here, we're sunshine people. We like to be outdoors and things like that. So that was a big difference. But you know, the club promised me they'd get me a job. They promised me they'd get me accommodation. They promised me this and they promised me that. Well, I got my own job.
Those promises fell through the cracks.
Yeah, and that's fine, you know. And like I said, I've done a lot of things for myself. I don't rely on people a lot, because, you know, if you want something done, you got to do it yourself in lots of ways, I think, a lot of times. So I just, I went and got myself a job, and the accommodation come, and then I decided that this is the place for me, Melbourne, and then we got married in July that year, and my wife and I moved down there, and it was a big shock for her moving away from her family. We were pretty close, and their mum and dad and his sisters. So yeah, but you know, she knew what I wanted to do. She was very supportive, and I knew what I wanted, you know, to do, and she accepted that and put up with a fair bit.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, good on her as well. Pretty brave. Yeah, and so during that period of time, what was it like? I don't know, because shortly after moving, a few years later, you were able to play for the Olympics. So what was that kind of training life like? Because you were working at the same time, and then you were also playing basketball. How did you balance the two?
Well, once more, this will sound a little bit monotonous, but I was telling these young people, and I tell these young people this story all the time. Yes, I was working a manual type of job until I got promoted to a salesman down in Melbourne. It's in the tyre industry as well. Bow Repair Tyre Service, actually, which was an Olympic tyres they sold, and named after Sir Frank Bow Repair, who founded the Bow Repair Tyre Service, and he played in the 1948 Olympic Games. And you know, it was strange that what I wanted to do there at it, and you know, it was hard. But I tell them, you know, I worked from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. Jumped in my car and drove half an hour to Albert Park and trained every day, 5 days a week. We played 2 days a week as well. I worked Saturday morning and I trained Saturday afternoon for 2.5 hours, and then Sunday morning I trained for 4 hours with the club. The gymnasium wasn't heated. This is Melbourne. Melbourne's not very nice in winter, and early in the morning you can see your breath pretty easy. So that was a big, you know, like I said, I sacrificed a lot. I gave up a lot. My wife was working. We lived in a unit down there, which we, you know, found ourselves and rented ourselves and stuff like that. And so yeah, that was a tough time in that adjusting and doing all those things. So, but it was the start of a great journey, you know, a wonderful journey, and I'm very indebted to Melbourne. I'm very indebted to Melbourne people, to be honest with you, even though I make jokes about Victorians at the moment. But you know, I have a lot of Victorian friends, and I still have a lot of Victorian friends, and you know, I catch up to them. Well, as you know, 2 years we haven't been able to catch up to each other, so hopefully that changes very shortly.
Yeah, and what about you're working pretty hard. So were there, I don't know, moments where you wanted to give up, and how did you, I guess, overcome that? Like, you know, you didn't know if you were gonna make it at that time, right? Because there were a lot of good players.
Well, there were, but I had my first taste of when I went down there, and you know, I made the St Kilda Div 1 team straight away.
Whoa!
That was never a question. And we had a young team. The club they were in relegation games when I got down there, but we qualified. We got into the top division down there. We had a very young team, enthusiastic team, a very close team of guys, and we went down there, and we lost in the first season there. We lost the grand final to Melbourne Tigers by about 30 points or something like that.
Ooh.
That hurt and things like that, but nobody did even expect us to make the semi-finals, let alone the grand final. So that was the start of it, and we grew. We changed coach. We got another very good player. We got a player coach by the name of Ken Cole, who was another great mentor of mine, still a great friend of mine as well. He took over the coaching because he came back from the 1978. Well, they never made it in the 78 Olympics, the Australian team. Never qualified. 68. We're in the 60s, wasn't I? Yeah, gee. In the 68 Olympics, they didn't qualify. But when Kenny came back, the manager of the team, who used to put a little bit of money into the club, convinced Kenny to come over and be a player coach for us, and he taught us how to win. And that team that beat us by 30, the first game that we played against them, when he came back, we beat them, and we beat them more times than they did. They beat us after that. So, but he was a winner. He played in the '64 Olympics in Tokyo as well, and just a great leader and a great teacher, a great motivator as well. So yeah, and he trained us hard. We trained hard. But we played hard as well. We probably trained harder than what we played. It was playing a game was just a formality to us.
Yeah. And is that like when he coached you guys? Was that when, I don't know, the Olympics almost became a prospect? Like, oh, maybe I could make it.
Well, actually with Kenny, he was a player coach for us, and in 1970, Kenny and I were both chosen for the Australian team in World Championships in Yugoslavia. So I played with Kenny. I was coached by Kenny.
Oh, wow.
Later on, I coached against Kenny. We
a little bit of fun rivalry.
Well, yeah, but a lot of respect for each other, and even to this day, we're the greatest of mates. And Kenny was a different type of person than me, but he had that work ethic as well, and but he could play. He was a great competitor, and taught us all how to win, because the coach we had before that, he never expected us to beat this Melbourne Tigers team.
Yeah.
He said that, I don't expect you to win tonight. Well, the first thing Kenny tells us when he takes over, he said, we can beat this team, no problems. If you guys believe in yourselves and believe in me, we will beat them.
Wow.
And that's another thing with belief, and that you got to believe in yourself. Don't, it's just like setting goals for yourself. If you set a goal this high, that's as high as you're going to reach. You set it up here, you'll reach higher. And don't set yourself low goals. I always make them a lot harder than what they should be. And but that makes you achieve more, makes you work harder. And
that's inspiring, right?
Oh, look, and the joys, and like we were a dynasty down there for a while, and won Victorian Championships, which is the toughest league in Australia at the time. We won the Australian Club Championship and things like that. And then, we got rewarded going to Yugoslavia in those World Championships.
Yeah, but I'm just really curious about Kenny as a player coach. So was he around your age, but he also played with you guys and also coached you guys? That's very...
Kenny's 2 years older than I am. I'm 76, Kenny's 78, and up until a couple of years ago, well, 3 or 4 years ago, Kenny was still playing, but he suffers, he has sugar diabetes, and he's had some cancer issues, but good, he coaches in World Championships as well.
That's
so
crazy.
Yeah, been around for a long, long time, and super guy.
Yeah. Wow. I can see you smiling very hard. Hello, Kenny, if you're watching.
He's in San Diego at the moment.
Oh.
I only found that out today, so he's gone back to see some of his grandchildren.
Yeah, that's cool. Wait, so take me. That was your first World Championship was in. Say that word again.
Sarajevo in Yugoslavia.
Yeah, Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia. Yeah, you can't say that. Can
Yeah.
you? No. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what was it? Yeah, this was like, you know, probably, I guess, would you say your first big taste of success? So what was it kind of like playing at the time? Super nervous, that adrenaline running?
Yeah. I like to always be tight and wound up. If I was too loose, I didn't play well. Too relaxed. So yeah, I always enjoyed being, you know, a lot more pressure put onto me that way, and but I thrived on pressure as well. In tight situations and games, we always, you know, I remember with Kenny was coaching us in a grand final. We were playing and we were 28 points down at half time, and we got up and won by 4 points the grand final. So we never believed we were beaten, and it, you know, and that's what he taught us, and that's how, you know, we all believe that way. You know, we weren't being arrogant or anything like that, but you know, we had that self-belief in ourselves, and that's one thing I'm pretty good at the moment, teaching young kids and encouraging them. You know, you got to believe in yourself. You know, don't let people tell you what you can do or you're no good or anything like that. Just ignore people. Ignore them. Don't be arrogant, but just ignore them. Do what you want to do. Achieve what you want to do. And that's not just in basketball. You know, you might want to be a checkout chick, or you want to be a doctor or a nurse or a pilot. You can be any of those things, you know. Just believe that you can do it. And like I said, when I went to the government, you know, this is a big challenge for me, you know. And, you know, in the end, like, I ended up there 12 and a half years working for the government. And, you know, I was very proud of what I achieved there. And, you know, I thought it taught me a lot in life. Travelling around the world taught me a lot in life, and that's leading on to questions you're going to ask me later. So I'll stop there.
Yeah. I'm just going to try and take it chronological, right? Chronologically. So first World Championship done with Kenny, and then was it the Olympics? Was that next in the timeline?
Well, you know, then I had 2 years, and before those Olympics, and that's what I'd set my heart on. That's what I wanted to do, was to represent Australia in the Olympic Games. You know, World Championships are great, but you know, like, you could play in 5 or 10 World Championships, and then when you're talking to people, I played in 5 World Championships, and I played in 1 Olympics, and all they want to know about is the Olympics. The Olympics is the pinnacle of sport. You know, it's the greatest, biggest sporting organisation in the world, and there's more people compete in it in different sports and things like that. So that was the real big thing about it. Yes. Yeah. Let's keep talking about the pinnacle for a bit.
Yeah. So what was it like? You know, at that. So what was it like going for the trials for the Olympics? Did you have to formally, I guess, I don't know, register for an audition?
No, you got, well, when we played see, in those days, the states, we used to play interstate games, and which doesn't happen now anymore, which I think is, you know, it would have been great if it did, but that got dropped. But from there, they picked a squad, and, you know, I remember just before the Olympics, the 3 days or something before it, I hurt my ankle. I twisted my ankle. I only did 2 ankles, and I twisted, but I went to call the Olympic doctor up, Howard Toyne, and I said, Doc, I got trials on Friday night, I need to be able to play, and he said, come in and see me, and he gave me some medicine in the form of a needle, and I trained, and you know, it was painful for the 3 days, but it was well worth it. I made the Olympic team.
Wow, and tell me about that moment when, like, how did they tell you that you made the Olympics?
Well, of course you didn't. Well, you didn't see it on Facebook, that's for sure. You didn't see it on Instagram and or anything like that. No, I don't even, because you know there was no mobiles in those days. How did they tell me? It's a good question. I think, you know, we were all called together, or it was at the training session where they announced the team, the final training session. Which was pretty tough on the players that missed out, but yeah, it was great to hear your name called out, and that's how it was at the end of training and that last day. So suddenly I'd become chosen for the Australian Olympic team, and I wasn't an Olympian yet because I hadn't competed, but boy, oh boy, it was a great feeling, and And to think that that was 1972, so yeah.
So 2 years before the Olympics, the formal Olympics, you were chosen. So wait, so you got chosen, like, how many, how much prior was that to the Olympics? Was it like 2 years before
Oh,
the actual
no,
Olympics?
That's probably only a month before we went away.
Oh, 1 month before the Olympics, you were chosen.
Yeah, that's right. So you don't get chosen every year. It's the same like the World Championships. We had to try out, and we were told at the last training session, hey, you've made the team, you haven't made the team.
Oh.
So, that's how they did it. Like, there's no other way we could do it, actually.
Yeah.
And there's no emails or anything like that. And so it's a lot easier, harder for the coaches to tell you didn't make the team nowadays.
Yeah,
so,
and it's kind of interesting because they sort of announced it publicly, round up the team, like, hey, Brian Kerle, And wait, so like, what were your odds, I guess? At the other teams, were you like one out of, I don't know, 30?
Well, I think there was something like 22 tried out, were in the final squad. And they just narrowed it down to, they took 12 players in those days. So they narrowed it down, and I had a lot of opposition. Actually, they picked for the Olympic Games. They picked 4 guys for the centre spot, with the big man spot in the middle. And there was one guy. He lasted 1 game and he got injured. And then there was another guy, a 7'2" American guy who naturalised. He just couldn't handle it. And then there was just left myself and another guy called Peter Byrne. And Pete and I were, I was 6'7" and Pete was 6'6", and we played in the centre against 6'10", 7-footers. And we ended up being 3 and 4. And we ended up being 1 and 2. He was 1 and I was number 2. So we shared that role between us. And at the Olympics, and and that's where there's another opportunity for us. So I grabbed it, and I guess I got a lot more recognition out of it in those days. But so fun games, and but there you go. So that was my opposition, and I had to beat them, and
But I also want to talk about that moment when you got selected. How did you celebrate? And were you screaming? Like, you can't exactly scream when...
No, I'm not that sort of person, as you know. But no, look, I deep inside I was screaming, and I was dancing inside. But no, I don't make a fool of myself or jump up and down and things like that. I did win a couple of grand finals, I must say, especially when they were very important to me. But no, I was smiling, of course, but I wasn't going around and
flashing in people's faces.
No, I'm not like that. No.
But and then take me back to the Munich Olympics. It was a very, I guess, special Olympics, and a lot of things happened. So maybe set some context for the audience and how you felt.
Well, first of all, when we arrived in Munich. Munich and Germans are a very proud nation, and because for what's happened beforehand, but they wanted to show the world that they could run a great event, and the German technology in those days was one of the leading technologies in the world. So we arrived, and there was no security whatsoever in the village. You could walk, you could drive a tank into the village, and no one would blink an eye. And just a few days before the Olympics started, we were in the village early, of course. And what happened was we went to bed this night, and we wake up the next morning. We heard some noises like gunshots at night, but we just thought it was fireworks because of the Olympics and things like that. None of us took any notice of it. And the next morning, our team manager, Frankie came back they had a meeting every morning sort of thing, and he came back and he called us all in, the basketball team, and said, these Palestinian terrorists have taken over the Israeli quarters and have shot an athlete, blah, blah, blah. And we went outside, and then straight away we walked out the front of our apartments where we was, and here's 6 or 8 German soldiers with machine guns and things like that. Now, in those days, no police didn't wear guns in Australia. We didn't know what a gun, was type sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we did, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And so to come out to see that, so the whole mood, of course, of the village has changed. And when in these at the Olympics, the villages are fantastic. You get to meet so many other different. That's where I probably got my love of. I have a habit of, and my boys get embarrassed by, but I ask people what nationality they are because it's the best way to learn about people, I think. But I got to meet so many different athletes from different countries, which was brilliant to do. And so and that these guys were holding these Israeli athletes in their apartment, and where we used to go and have our breakfast or lunch and dinner, a great big food hall. We could see out the window. It was probably only about 300, 400 yards away. I don't know how many metres that is, but 8 yards away. We could see these Israelis being held with submachine guns to them and things like that.
Through the window.
Yeah,
right?
but so we're still eating our breakfast, but we'd have one eye on our cornflakes and one eye on the window up there. Not making a light joke, but that, and that's what it was like. But, and then of course, they made demands that they wanted helicopters to transfer them to the airport, and they wanted safe travel out. But, it's history now what happened, with those athletes. The Israelis, I think it was 13 or 14 people killed at the airport. Or murdered, call it what you like. But it was a sad time, and so suddenly the village is totally different, and suddenly we've got security guards on the gates and things like that, and everything was in chaos. It was a tough time for everybody, but then we got together and met all the athletes from around the world in the athletic stadium, and we took a vote, and everybody decided. There was a few that wanted to go home, and no, that's their choice, those people, and they wanted to do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we all decided to stay because we trained, and this is just not Australian athletes, this is world athletes, trained for 4 to 5 years to make that Olympic team, and to have an act like this, break it up, is they didn't want to see that happen. So they decided the games go on, and the games did go on, and I was privileged to play in a really top competition. It was the first time the Americans ever been beaten in Olympic Games by the Russians, which was under controversy as well. The Americans were cheated out of it, to be honest with you, and I was sitting under the basket. I saw everything that went on just like everybody else. And so from there, I saw Raylene Boyle win her 2 silver medals. Was against a German girl, lady, that can be used loosely, to be honest with you, because she was built very differently to females. And later on she was tested with drugs, and it killed her in the end as well. But she won the gold, but Raylene won the silver medal in the 100 and the 200 metres, or 200 yards it was in those days. And Raylene is a super lady, and she lives up in the Sunshine Coast. So I saw that. I saw Shane Gould win gold medals. I saw the Australian hockey team win their gold medal, and things like that. So they're the memories you have. The opening ceremony was the greatest thing that I've ever seen, and very hard to explain the feeling of how it is for opening of a ceremony. But and this is the great thing about the Olympic Games. It brings the world together. There's no colour or religion or anything. Everybody is together type sort of thing. Everyone forgets about all these other things that causes issues in our world, and that's what I love about the Olympics. It's just the camaraderie and everything. Like we play against each other on the basketball court or on the running track to win, but off it, the friendship is amazing. And I met some beautiful people, some great people, and learned a lot from them. And I remember dancing around in that closing ceremony, and I say Shane Gould and all those swimmers. And there's I've got a friend that doesn't live far from me here, that she was at the Olympics as well with me, and somehow or other we ended up not living far away from each other, and you know, I often catch up with her, and so she was in the Australian swim team. So, you know, that was the Olympics, and then the closing ceremony, another super event. Once more, the camaraderie there, and that was a sad thing about the Tokyo Olympics, the fact that there was hardly anybody there for the opening ceremony in the grandstands and at the end. And to me, that's the greatest part of it, is all the athletes holding hands or dancing at the middle and things like that, and bringing the world together. And that's what I think was an amazing thing. It's not just the sporting event, but what it did, I think, for people to get to understand each other more.
Yeah, and I think that ties a lot into the work you do today with like a lot of different multicultural kids, but we'll touch on that a bit later. But yeah, wow, the Olympics sounds like a wonderful experience and unforgettable.
It was unforgettable,
Yeah.
and you know, an Olympian, you're always an Olympian. You're never a former Olympian, you're never an ex-Olympian, and
that's the best part. For
yes,
branding, Brian
that's
Kerle.
right. We're always Olympians, and to think that you've represented Australia at the highest level is you know, is something that you can be very proud of, and I am proud. And the Olympian family is a very close family and a very good family, and you know, being an Olympian has helped me a lot in life, meeting people. I've met prime ministers, I've met premiers, and, you know, I've met top business people around the world, and you know, and of course too, I've met people that work in factories and stuff like that, and people at the airport that load the planes and things like that, and I treat everybody the same. Everybody's equal as far as I'm concerned, and you know, their title might mean a bit different, but people are people, and that's how I treat everybody, with respect, and you know, give them the time of day, and I think that's sort of won me a lot of friends too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so wait, after the Olympics, like, you know, you've made it, you've hit the top, like you said. Is there like almost a kind of like, what now? Almost like a sort of emptiness, because you're super competitive and you love having big goals, but once you've finished it, what else is there, you know?
Well, you know, after it, you know, I sort of had a bit of a lull, and things like that. But you know, we still had St Kilda, and you know, we were still playing there, and I played right up until I was in 1978. But I played a little bit in '79. But in '79, I took over the Australian, the St Kilda basketball team, coaching them, which was another story as well. So, yeah, you know, I went to the World Championships in Puerto Rico in '74. I didn't really want to go. You know, I had a business I was running as well down in Melbourne, and
What kind of business?
It was a tyre company, mechanical company that I started off with just myself and one other, and I built that up to having 18 people work for me, and you know, we were turning over a lot of money. But you know, I after a while I wanted to get out of that. I knew I wanted to be something different.
So this was right after Olympics. You started your tyre company.
Yeah, well, see, it was quite interesting when I was working for Bow Repair Tyre Service in 1972, and we went to the Olympic Games. We had to be away for 3 weeks. They owed me 2 weeks holiday, and I asked them for full pay on the other week, and they came to me and they said, "Oh, look, sorry, we can't do that for you, because if we pay you, we'll have to pay everybody that works for us that are going to the Olympic Games." Well, I was the first guy to make the team, me and another weightlifter who worked for Bow Repair Tyre Service, you know, in 24 years. So I couldn't understand their thinking. So before the Olympics, I decided I'm going to open up my own business, because I can use my name and I'll be an Olympian. And it helped me, because I could, you know, and I people wanted to know what it was like being an Olympian and things like that. So it was very easy for me. I didn't go in there. And then as I talked about the Olympics, and as I was leaving, they say, "Oh, I need 4 of these tyres, I need 4 of that tyre," or something like that. And I said,
Bring you back to reality.
I said, "Oh, you want some tyres here?" I said, "I think you just want to chat to me about the Olympics." So that's how it made life easier for me. So, but yeah, and so 74, I really, after that, I think I then had an operation on my knee because I missed out on the 76 Olympics because I was really upset I missed out on that spot, but I had a patellar tendonitis in my knee and I ended up having an operation on it. But then 2 years after that, the coach rang me up and wanted me to go to New Zealand with the Australian team to qualify. And I said, "Oh, I think you should take younger players," things like that. And he said, "No, I need your experience." So I went just to help out the team. So yeah, that's what it was. But then, you know, I wanted to go on a different pathway, and coaching was the next thing.
Yeah. But back to the knee operation. Do you think that, I guess, I don't know, if you didn't train so hard and push yourself to the, I don't know, to the limit, do you think it would have, I don't know, made the career longer per se?
It would have, yes, because I was getting to try and get in that 76 Olympic team in Montreal.
Everything you got.
I really wanted to make that team, but you know, I was getting injections in my knee and things like that. It was a lot of pain. I wish I had known what I know now, because as soon as I missed out in the team, I had it operated on. And I was back playing within 6 months, and then got back into the Australian team. So, and I haven't had any bothers with it since, except I've had that knee replaced now. So, so I don't think my Olympic days are over now. But yeah, it was one of those things, and so yeah. But then that happened for a reason too, and then I sort of retired and ended up coaching, something I'd never planned on.
Yeah. So I guess, so it was just some guy from New Zealand, and he's like, "Hey Brian, we want your expertise for coaching." And
no, it was Australian coach. No, it was the Australian
coach.
Yeah, he said, "Brian, you know," he came to me and I said, "Look, you take some younger players, you know. I've had my time," and he said, "Oh no, I really want you."
So, wait, so he wanted you to play at the time, or he wanted you to straight up coach at the time?
No, he wanted me to play for Australia. And you know, and that was in 76. Yeah, 1976.
So just right after missing out on the Olympics.
Yeah, because see, every 2 years you had to play against New Zealand to qualify for the World Championships or the Olympics. And you had to go over there, or they'd come, but we'd always go there because New Zealand didn't have any money, so we always played in New Zealand. I think every time I didn't know, went over there 3 times to play against them, and so yeah, it was interesting, but que sera.
But I'm surprised that, you know, you would turn down the opportunity at the time. Were you a lot older than the other people, or?
Yeah, I was.
Like 5 years, 10 years?
Gee, now you're testing my memory. I can't work out really quick how old I was at the time, but yeah, I was in my 30s, and I was a little bit older. I think it was about 35 or something like that. And I thought, hey, you know, time's up for me. And
was it because of the pain, or?
Well, I remember we went up to Sydney to play in the Australian Club Championships in 1978, I think it was, and I played, and we won it. We won the championship. I think it was about the 4th or 5th time, and I stuck my head in the referee's door, and I had a go at them all, you know, quite in a funny way, sort of thing, in a friendly way. And told them, you know, what I couldn't tell them on the court. And then, you know, it was the worst thing, silliest thing I ever did, because then I turned to coaching and I had to deal with these same referees that when I played. But they were good mates, they were good friends of mine, and I got on pretty well with most referees. There was a couple I didn't like, and a couple that didn't like me either.
Fair enough.
That's why they called against me. But you know, that's how it all happened. You know, so I gave up playing, and suddenly we go to America, the club, St Kilda Basketball Club, and the coach, there was an American coach, he got an offer for a job at his old university, and then the club asked me to fly a clock back over the Pacific. Kerle, would you like to, why don't you coach the team, the club? I said, I haven't even thought about coaching. I got no thoughts, no principles, no ideas of coaching at all, no philosophies. And but you know, I'd played for the club for so long, and I was loyal to the club, and I accepted the job, and I didn't know anything about coaching. So, but you know, and once more they told me I'd never be able to coach, and so
why so many haters, Brian?
Well, the first season I took over, we'd won for 3 years in a row. We'd won the club championship in Victoria and the Australian championship. And I came third and fourth. So you know, if I win, I was expected to win. If I lose, then I looked at it as a failure. But then in '79, when the NBL started, I coached the NBL, the St Kilda team, to the first NBL title in '79 and the second in 1980.
Yeah.
So but you know,
things happen for a reason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But at that time, was it a difficult decision to give up basketball?
It was hard, because you love playing. And
how did you, I mean, technically people still wanted you to play, so how did you, I guess, make that decision for yourself?
Well, I think family-wise too, and business-wise, you know, and then I sold out of my business. I'd had enough of it. I wanted to do something different in my life, and I was offered a job to work 2 days a week at Victorian Basketball in promotions, fundraising, and promoting the team and the basketball in Victoria. So that, you know, I wanted to do things like that, and that's, you know, and that was meant to be too. Everything was seemed to meant to be. You know, I had enough of, you know, the other side of things, because I'd been in that for a fair while, and you know, for a guy my size, you know, moving big tractor tyres around is not very good for your back, and terrible for your back. But so look. You know, a lot of athletes, Karen, when they retire, there is a how do I explain, a dark hole in your life.
Yeah.
Because you've gone from being a notoriety, people want to know you, want to be your friend, not your real friend, they want to be your friend.
Yeah, they want to kind of get
piggyback
off the fame.
And so they want to be your friend and everything, and this is why you find a lot of top class, not just basketball, everyone, they go through depression, they go through tough times, because once their life is full of everything, and then suddenly it's all taken away from them, or they retire, and they haven't got that notoriety that they've had, and a lot of them can't deal with it. You know, I went through a little bit of it, but then, you know, when you start coaching, then it's a different sort of thing once more. You're right in the headlines and things like that, and it's very tough life and things like that, because coaches are under a lot of pressure all the time. But you know, we won in '79 and '80, and so once more, you know, it's changed my life again. So I've won everything as a player, and then now I'm suddenly the NBL started in 1979, and to win the first 2 championships is one hell of an achievement, and something I'm very, very proud of to this day. So and you know, but it is tough, I can tell you now, and you know, there's a story when you asked me something else about the bullets and things like that, you know, because as a coach I was sacked 3 times. So,
and why was that, Brian? Up to no good?
Well, the team let me down and lost, so and it's always the coach that gets fired to say it's never the player's fault. But no, look, it happened, and you know, I didn't like the way I was treated in 3 of the times I was, but because owners and people that run the clubs sometimes are pretty. Oh, we won't go there. But they're not game to come and tell your face and say that, hey, we think we should change. Why don't we? Would you like to do this position? Because I always wanted to go into the front office, even up here at the Bullets. I wanted to help up here in that area. So, so like I said, while I was playing, when I retired and I was coaching St Kilda at the end there, I was working for Victorian Basketball, and I got a $30,000 sponsorship. In those days was a lot of money from Schweppes sort of thing for the association. I had my own radio show, which I emceed, or not emceed, but I was the head guy on it and interviewed all these different basketballers and things like that. I got basketball put onto the front pages of the Herald Sun, which is hard in Melbourne because you're competing against Aussie rules. So, and basketball started to boom, and with the NBL coming and things and that, I was lucky, and I did all those things, and I'd never done a marketing course, I'd never done a promotion course or a radio course or anything like that. So, and later on, up here I did TV commentary as well, and so, like I said, I taught myself a lot of things, and I had a go at a lot of things, but I believe that I could do the best I could. I'd be okay at it.
Yeah, but it's pretty amazing that self-belief, I don't know, has carried through your various different careers.
Well, and even now, like I believe that I can make my academy work. It's been hit by the COVID situation, and but we're gradually trying to get back on our feet on that one. But I have great following with my clinics and my Saturdays and Sunday work and the schools that I go to. I do a lot of Indigenous work. I do a lot of I don't know if you want to talk about this now, but
a bit later.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm kind of curious about that self-belief. Like, as a kid, you were like a skinny kid, but I guess self-belief was something you like slowly, I guess, started to foster after getting win after win, or you weren't born with it per se?
Yeah, I always thought, because whenever my sister and I played any sport, and I always wanted to beat her. But then I'm contradicting myself because I said I respected women and I loved women, but I wanted to beat my sister. It didn't matter, and she wasn't as sporty as I was anyway. But I still wanted to beat her, and so that was it. It wasn't important that I beat her, but you know what I'm saying. But, but I think it's all right, and the biggest issue I have with young people, I can teach them the right technique, how to shoot, and that's fine. But if they don't believe in themselves or don't think that shot's going in, they won't make it. And now great shooters and great basketball, they can miss 3 shots in a row, and they're going to take the 4th shot and know they'll make it because they believe in themselves. And that's why Jordan and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and even Patty Mills, who is one of the greatest basketball Australia's ever had, like I said before, they believe in themselves. They got a lot of faith in themselves, and if things go wrong, they go and work harder at it. They don't say, my form's down, I'm not shooting well. Well, the only way you're going to shoot better is to go out there and practice more. All right, you might have to have a little break or something like that, but you go out there and practice more, and then you'll come back to you get that mojo back again, as they say. And to me, I always believed that. But like Kenny Cole and David Lindstrom, who's an American coach that I had, they were vicious competitors, and I say vicious in a nice way. But we were relentless. We knew we were never beaten. We believed in each other. We believed in the team, and we believed in ourselves. And that's what made us so good. And that's what the great NBA players are the same way. They just got so much self-belief, those guys. And you've only got a great Muhammad Ali, the boxer, the world heavyweight. And I learned from guys like that too. I didn't recite poems like him, but he believed that he was going to beat you. He had that belief, and nothing else mattered to him. And that's what makes champions, is those sort of people. So yeah, and look, you know, I was never a world champion, but I was pretty good at what I did and enjoyed what I did, and you know, and I think also on top of all that, you've got to enjoy what you're doing in life. You know, I left the government because I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I didn't like what was happening and things like that, so I got out of it. You know, and that's how I think you should do, because I didn't want to drag people down around me and things like that. So I got on to achieve other things, and I've got a lot of things now I still haven't finished in my life, and until I achieve it, you get stuck with me for a while. Okay.
Yeah, going strong. But yeah, I love that, right? You know, some people like retirement, but
No.
Brian is like, I'm just getting started.
Well, you know the story there. You know, when I did retire, you know, I did go through some tough times, and but you know, life's good now.
Yeah,
That's good,
and yeah, wait, want to go back to coaching.
Oh,
So, yeah, what was it like coaching for the first time? Did you didn't know what you're doing? You can't exactly ask people how to coach. Can you?
No, you know, you learn your trade. You got to get your philosophies and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have like a mission statement, a vision statement?
like, I'd coach junior teams, but junior teams are different from you know, an NBL team or an Australian team or an NBA team. They're totally different. So you know, so I worked at that. But what I did is, see, in those days also, we didn't have Google, we didn't have YouTube, so you couldn't watch. Like now, kids can get anything they like off YouTube and Google.
Yeah. That's
about
why you
how
don't
to
need
play.
school, Brian.
That's
Self-learning.
right. Well, you know, it's made everybody lazy now. You know, you can
Yeah.
find anything what you want to in the world that's on there. So, but we didn't have videos. If we wanted videos and things like that, when we went on a trip to America, first thing I'd do was hit the bookstores and buy any basketball book I could get, or any videos, and bring them back home with me.
Yeah.
That was how it was. And so, you know, and then any American coaches that would come to Australia, or any teams, I'd be sitting beside them and I'd be in their ear. And I was asking things. But I also talked to Aussie rules coaches, cricket, different coaches of different sports, and talk to them about this and that, and you know, and I learned that way. You know, I wasn't a great reader of books and things like that. Not that I couldn't read; I could read, but I just
still doesn't like reading books.
So you know, that was fine. But yeah, and you know, and I encourage, you know, people now and kids, you know, ask questions. There's no bad questions. There's no silly questions. And if you don't want to ask in front of the whole group, come and talk to the coach later on. But I did. I learned as much as I could. I went and saw as many American coaches that I could, and then of course touring over there and playing against them, things like that. That was super as well. So, yeah, that's how I learnt my trade, and a lot of it was trial and error. But being a winner, one thing I did, I got my teams together, but playing together as a team, and I think a good team will always beat a team of good players.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, what like, how is, you know, coaching different to playing, and what's that kind of different sort of fulfillment like? Like, I feel like coaches, you have a lot more pressure. You're carrying the whole team, but when you're just a player, you're just you.
Well, I think the big difference and the big adjustment I had to make is that when you're playing, you can make it happen out on the court. You can do
that
it.
control.
Now when you're coaching, you're sitting on there,
You're
you
like,
know it's got to happen. You know it's got to happen and what you should be doing. And it's getting that message through to those guys out there on the court. And you get frustrated, can I take him off and go on and play myself? Because I know what to do.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing to overcome, is, you know, being that fact that now you're a teacher, you're a mentor for these guys. You got to learn all about your players. Every player's different. You got to know what their personality is, who can handle pressure. You know, I have players that I call cane toads, and I have them that called cream puffs. You know, cane toads that you can get on them and kick them and knock them down, and they keep getting up. You know what I'm saying? You know how I'm saying?
Yeah.
And whereas the powder puffs, the cream puffs, if you scowl at them or you say, you know, they get all upset and things like that, and tears come to their eye. They're and you want the cane toads. They're the ones, because you know they're always going to be there fighting for you and things like that. So you have to pick. You know, every player's got a different personality. You know, and when I coached my teams up here, I knew who I could put in at certain times and who I couldn't. Who was that good at the end of a game when it was under pressure, the game was on the line. That was an important thing to know. It's not just about the X's and O's. Learn the personality of your team, and that was one thing I learnt that from football coaches and American coaches as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting.
But it is nerve-wracking sitting there and thinking, gee, I wish I could.
Do you ever not want to watch the game?
No. Look, you know, I've been in close games. I've lost close games. I won more close games and then lose, and then it's great. Pressure. When I was playing, I think you just put pressure on yourself, and you got to really deal with that as well. That one thing you don't want to let your opposition see that you're tired or you're nervous or something like that. You just got to be cool out there.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious about your coaching style. So when your team wins, what kind of congratulatory kind of speech do you make, or do you want to you want to keep them sort of humble, but you want to, and what about when they lose? How do you, deal with these two different situations?
Look, if they win, I always give them a couple of negative things that we need to do better at, but I always try to finish on a positive note.
Yeah.
Guys, you rebounded well today. Your defence was much better as a team and as individuals and things like that. But there's things you got to say. Hey, we got to look for that open man. That's not been negative. It's really been you coaching.
Yeah.
But people say, oh, he's been negative. But no, I'm coaching. If I don't tell you these things,
constructive criticism.
Yeah. So that'll make it work better for you. So I think that's important. If you lose, I have done some. I remember in 1985 when I back here at Queensland in coaching the Bullets, we went to Alice Springs to play a pre-season game, and we lost the game to an Adelaide team by a few points, and they got this great big trophy like this, and we got a trophy about this high. And I said to the guys, and this is in the change room, and this is not common knowledge actually, but I said, hey, if you want to play like you did today and you don't want to do this and this is what you're going to end up at the end of 1985. And I threw it on the ground and said, who wants a trophy like this? Okay, we won the championship that year.
Wow!
So that was the first time in 1985. But see, that was just one way I did. Sometimes I did explode in the change room, and sometimes, but there were some players that I had to give them a needle and get them stuck into them, or give them but to G them up. But there were some others that I knew. I never had to do that with Leroy Loggins, for instance. Leroy was always there, but some players weren't. So, but that was one story that I did, and I just think, and it worked. And those guys, they didn't accept the defeat, and because Brisbane wasn't used to winning. And the first year I came back here, we played in the grand final. The second year I was back here, we won it. So the third year we runners up, and the next year we won it. So. But I was disappointed when we lost and things like that. So I beat Ken Cole in 1985, my best mate and good mate in basketball. And then the next year he beat me. So I don't talk about when he beat me.
Yeah.
But no, we often talk about it. But we got the utmost respect for each other.
Yeah. And I guess so. After coaching for so long, what, in your opinion, how does one become a great coach? It's a very fine balance between pushing them, but also,
encouraging them.
Yeah,
encouragement.
Yeah,
You gotta be positive. You gotta be, you gotta have the respect of them. You know, you got to earn your respect of the players. I think that's important. And, you know, a coach is in a tough position, you know, because if the team loses, the coach is the one that's going to bear the burden. It's never the players they get rid of, it's always the coach. That's a given. And you know, when you're a professional coach, there's only two types of coaches. Those who have been sacked and those who are waiting to be sacked. So
terrible.
That's the, you know, and that's just the trade. That goes with the job. But you know, good coaches haven't got an ego either. I never had an ego, and I still don't have an ego and things like that. I wanted to win, and that was my ego, if you want to put it that way. But I wasn't doing it because for the wrong reasons, and I didn't want the notoriety and things like that. Too many coaches these days they get a certificate to say, you know, oh, you're a level 1 or a level 2 coach. You ain't nothing with that piece of paper. You got to get an experience out there, and you got to earn that respect. And it's the same with people that go to TAFE and things like that and get a marketing degree and things like that. They get this piece of paper, suddenly they think they're a marketer. You're nothing. You got to go out there. You got to sell yourself, guys. And there's, you know, people aren't interested in this paper. They're interested in the human being, and the same as me. But they're important. But learning your players and giving them that respect. I always had one or two players that I took advice from. And not necessarily listen to them all the time. They knew what the rules were, but I thought it was good that because giving them the respect back, that they respected me, and if they had, you know, if there's any rumblings within the teams, then you could stamp on them pretty well straight away. So my most successful years when I had everybody on the same page. The years that I lost championships was because one player, or maybe two players, mostly one player, certain players were out for themselves and not the team. So I think I had a good knack, and Kenny Cole and David Lindstrom, two of the best coaches I coached for, had a great knack of getting the team together. And that's why that Australian team that just won the bronze medal in Tokyo was such a great team, because Paddy Mill, he what's the word, solidated and brought them together, you know, made those guys a unit where everyone would virtually die for each other. You know, they wanted to win for Australia. They wanted to win for people like myself and others who played in the Olympics before them. Like when we played for a bronze medal in '88. We've been waiting 30 odd years for Australia to win a medal. And so that's why that win in Tokyo meant so much to me. And, you know, when we caught up with Paddy and Danny Morsu, and you know, we shed tears over it because we were that proud of those guys, and they acknowledged, Paddy acknowledged of what we'd done as trailblazers for them to be able to do that. So you know, they're the things that are important, and so you know, it was just having that great teams, and Paddy, he brought that team, he melded that team or welded that team together as a solid unit. And those guys, they weren't going to back down for anybody, and that's what made them strong.
Oh, that's brilliant. But how does one form that sort of tight bond? Is it like the classic group activities, or how do people, I don't know, get to the point where they could die for each other, literally?
Well, they had a theme. They, and this has been don't forget, Paddy has been to 3 Olympics, and on 2 occasions they've just missed out on playing for a medal, and that hurt them and things like that. But he had Joe Inglis as well, who worked with him, and who united that team. And I think it's. And Brian Kerle, who was the coach of the Australian team, Gorge is he's the greatest coach ever been here, I believe. And but he also knew how to handle the players. And when you get players at that level at the Olympics, they're professionals. They've been playing for a long time. They're earning big money, some of those guys. And he respected those guys, and Paddy and those guys made Brian Gorgian's job a lot easier, because he understood the team, and 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 Matty Nielsen, the assistant coach, he did a great job as well, because he was in the same situation, was on the Australian team a couple of Olympics ago when they played for medals, and he missed out as well. So that's everyone wanted to win, not just for themselves though, but they dedicated for Australian basketball. And those guys, and I said to Paddy, Paddy, you just don't realise how much you've done for Australian basketball. You and this team, you have really made basketball now, and kids now wanting to play it more. And that's what's great. It's not just that they won, but it's what they've done for basketball. I think is very important. And Paddy Mills is such a humble sort of a guy. His mum and dad are beautiful people, and and he's been raised in a fantastic way. And he's a humble man. He doesn't go around. He's got no big ego. He wants to win, and he's he fierce winner sort of thing. And for him to stay in the NBA as long as he has been a real credit to him. And now he's just signed a 16, 17, 18 million dollars up for the next 2 years in New York, and he deserves that because he's worked for it. It's not luck or anything like that.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, but I think it's quite interesting how you sort of separate the competitiveness and the ego as well. It's they don't have to. You generally think they sort of go together, but it's kind of cool that there's a sort of distinction between them.
Well, I was taught by an American baseball coach, that if you've got an ego, don't coach. You're in the wrong. Go and get another job, because you're only interested in yourself.
Yeah.
You're not interested in, and as a coach, you're more than a coach. You're a mentor. You're like a parent to the kids, and sometimes you spend so much time with those kids, and you can make a big difference in those kids' lives. And I know there's some kids in the last 2 days that I've made a big difference to their life, but about being an Olympian. Do you want to be an Olympian? And after the first day, when we worked them real hard, I said, you guys still want to be an Olympian? And there's only 3 or 4 guys that actually shook their heads, but the rest of them said, yes, I want to still be an Olympian. Now, they won't be all Olympians for sure, but at least they got the opportunity now, and they know what they're going to do to be the best that they can be and believe in themselves to get to that spot.
Yeah, but that's really cool that you make them, I guess, see more in themselves than before. So, but as a coach, want to hear a bit about the less glamorous side. Was there any, tough decisions you had to make in regards to players, and did maybe some players complain about the pressure, or does anyone yell at the coach for being too harsh, or is that a thing?
The softies do, yes. But,
do they just leave the team, or do they get rid of you, or how does it work?
Well, I was got rid of by a couple of players on 2 occasions.
Oh, based on complaints for being hard.
Well, was something to, but not just being hard, but they didn't like what I was doing. Some of them were getting to the end of their career, and they didn't want to admit that their career was over. But when you're earning $150,000 and you're in the 30s, of course you want to keep playing, because what else are you going to do? And I always said, hey, you're not playing for me, and you can play for yourself, but you're playing for Brisbane. All right, you're playing for the Brisbane Bullets. That's what who you're playing for, and that's your top priority. But too many players play for the name that's on the back of their shirts instead of the one on the front of their shirt, and that's important. That that's what it's all about. And when I won that first championship up here, I dedicated it, like I said, to Vince Hickey, because that man meant so much to me. And it wasn't about me, and it was him. And then, the second one I dedicated to my dad. So, they're the things that are important to do. But look. I've had to cut some players. I've got one now that still reminds me of it. But sometimes you have to make hard decisions, and sometimes you'll be backed. I'd always talk it over with my assistant coaches and things like that. But some players not doing the right thing. Some players weren't good enough. Some players didn't fit into the team, or there was one occasion there was one guy, he was all about himself and not the team. And I thought that, this city's not your place, so you're only worried about yourself. I'm worried about the whole team. So, and that's why I've always thought, I never thought about myself, I thought about the team, and I think about kids now, why I do what I'm doing, because, I care about them. I'm not so much about Brian Kerle, but, I think I can still, once I stop being able to give kids advice or some information or, and I've got some fabulous kids and some fabulous parents that support me and come to me for training and things like that. And one thing, I teach them the right things, I think, and to be good people as well.
It's more than just basketball, it's about life, right?
That's right.
You sent me a quote on that.
So that, that's how I just think about the whole overall thing, and because the greatest thing in '85 when I won the championship.
How was that? Tell me more.
Well, that was brilliant, and
screaming this time?
Yeah, and I did get excited in this time, and because it was the first one for the city of Brisbane, and that meant a lot to me. I did it for Brisbane, and I remember the Channel 7 executives come up to me after the game and everything and said, "Kerle, if there's one thing that you'd like or you wanted, what would it be?" And I could have said anything. Give me a brand new Mercedes 450 or something like that. But I said, you know what I want? All I asked for is, I said, I want to be picked up by the Channel 7 helicopter and just fly over Brisbane and look down on Brisbane and saying to myself, this is what I've done for you, Brisbane. This is for you, not for me, but for you. And just to hover above the city, which we've got a beautiful city here in Queensland, that meant a lot to me, and that I've given Brisbane something to be proud of. And we put the Brisbane Bullets name on everybody's lips in Brisbane. And it's funny how I talk to people today, even though they're all grandmothers and grandfathers these days, because the people just come to the games. But but a lot of those people are passing down. Oh, you've been coached by Brian Kerle today. Oh, who's Brian Kerle? Oh, and then they'll tell these kids, their grandkids or their kids, hey, who I am and things like that. But I did a lot of that for these kids for today, and and playing in 5 grand finals and winning 2 of them was something that I'm very, very proud of, but I did that for Brisbane and the team and the people that supported me, like the Vince Hickeys and my dad and people like that. That meant a lot to me, and I get the recognition, and all that stuff when we get 14,000 people to games. I had some fantastic people around me that helped me achieve that, or helped us achieve it, not me, us achieve it. And I do acknowledge those people all the time, and they know who they are also.
But that's really amazing. Like, I can see it all coming full circle. Everyone that's helped you become, a really good player, and then you, I guess, going back and giving it all back almost.
Well, I think you got to give back, and Karen, I do a lot of work, multicultural work, but I also do a lot of work with Indigenous kids, and actually one of my Indigenous boys today was probably a real proud moment, and it brought a little bit of misty eyes to myself and Marty and Simon and Max and Toby, because we had this young boy and he's 12 years old, and he was in foster care, and we took him in. He loved basketball, and anyway, he sort of lost contact for the last 12 months, 18 months, and he contacted me this week and said, Brian, can I come back and train with you again? And Eric turned up today, and I thought, so there's a message there that, hey, here's a kid that you've made a big difference of his life. His background is not the greatest, his mother and his father were alcoholics and drug addicts, and and his stepfather's in jail, and not a great scene. but the young boy today, and even he was misty-eyed, but you know, we've done a lot for him, and to think that he still appreciates what we do for him.
Yeah, and he still remembers.
And he still remembers. But when he walked in today, we were just, I was choked. I said, "Hey, brother, you know, you're really good to see you." We hugged each other and things like that. You know, and I've got another Indigenous boy at the moment that has come up through foster care and child safety and things like that, that he's turning out to be a really fine young man as well. And unfortunately, his foster grandpa died yesterday, and he couldn't come today, but he was pretty shook up yesterday. But you know, he knows we're there for him. I have a policy that you're never alone at. Well, no, you're never alone at Brian Kerle basketball, and that door's always open. Yeah. I've had another Indigenous boy, Bryce, that has come down from Harvey, but gone through my academy. Yeah. He's now come back to me as well. You know, we're helping him try to get a job now and things like that. He's went through a pretty tough time. They're the things those things to me are just as important as winning a championship. They are big wins for us, you know. If I can help them and do, you know, one of our young boys, an Indigenous boy from up north in Blackwater, hopefully next year he's thinking of joining the army now, but also he could be a teacher's aide or something like that and go back and help his people. So they're the things, you know, I go to 4 Indigenous schools here in Brisbane, and we're doing, you know, some good stuff there, and the kids trust us. They look forward to us coming. If we didn't turn up, they get onto the teachers to find out where we are. You know, they're just how they are now. And those kids, majority of them respect what we do for them and how we're helping them out, and the school does as well. So who knows, we may produce another Paddy Mills out of all of those kids. You know, they're the things, you know, you can talk about the Olympics and all that, and I'm not downgrading myself, I'm not diluting it or anything like that, but these things are like victories for me itself. These are some of my greater victories, I think. I helped keep a young boy a few years ago out of the detention centre. 2 months ago I helped get a boy out of the detention centre again, you know, and they're victories to me, you know, because I don't want to see kids in detention centres and stuff like that. But if I wasn't Brian Kerle, I wouldn't be able to make an impact on these guys, because they do get told about me, even though they weren't around when I was coaching or playing. But their people are telling them, hey, you know, Brian is this and that. And and I want to do more work in that area as well, and hopefully I'm bringing we are very multicultural now, and I'm trying to get the people from overseas learning more about our First Nation people, so they understand each other, because the biggest problems in the world is ignorance. And that's why I'm lucky. I've been around the world so many times. I've seen poverty, I've seen everything. I've seen at the Olympics how when we talk to each other and we get to know about each other, hey, you don't judge somebody walking across the other side of the street. You've got to get to know them. You know, the other night I was invited to an Indian cricket team presentation night. Gosh, you know, and they were just lovely people. They treated me lovely and fantastic, and you know, it was just a pleasure to be invited to there, and a privilege. And I told them when I spoke, I said, you know, I thank you, and I'm privileged for you guys to want me here tonight, because you're all cricketers and you're from India, and we know what your number one sport is. But I told them, you know, I played cricket when I was younger as well, so you know, it was well accepted, and I met some new people there. So, you know, I'm blessed, Karen. I really am blessed, you know. And you know, I've been over to Samoa, what the work we've done over there and things like that. And I'll keep doing it, because kids keep me young. I don't want to sit in an old people's home, put it that way.
Kids give you energy. But right back to the coaching part. So how did you, I guess, decide to retire and then create the Brian Kerle brand? Because when you were coaching, you didn't have time to create your Brian Kerle Academy, and
Well, I don't know if I've told you, but you know, when I retired, you know, they were forced retirements in coaching, as you know, like being sacked and things like that. But No,
Bad stories.
no,
Bad
look,
memories.
I'm just trying to. I had the thought in my mind there what I wanted to say, and you reword what the question was. I'm just thinking so many things. You brought back so many memories into me now, and what was the question you said to me?
No worries. So I was thinking about like how did you decide to? You said maybe forced retirement from coaching, and then into building the BK brands. How did that happen?
Because of the job I did with the Queensland Government in Sport and Recreation, and the late Terry McEnroth was.
So this was during your time coaching?
This is when after I got sacked in 20,000.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to get a job with the Queensland Government, and I worked in the Indigenous unit there. I was the only white fella, but I worked in the Indigenous unit, and we used to go all around Queensland talking to kids, encouraging them to stay off drugs and cigarettes and alcohol, to stay in school, eat right and things like that. And I always had this plan, and when I retired from the government, in that...
How long did you work there for?
I finished up working there for 12 and a half years.
My gosh.
And it was...
Was it fun?
It was fun working with all these university graduates, and here I am, and I told them one day we were sitting around having coffee or something, and they were all talking about their degrees and everything. I said, yeah, I've got a degree, and they said, no, you haven't. You know. I said, yeah, I've got a degree in street smarts and common sense. And they all went silent, and I said, because I did some great things to the government without praising myself, but for the minister and things like that, put up some great ideas, but they were always his ideas, but I put them up to it. But and they were successful things. So, but when I quit that and I got sacked that last time in 2000, that's when I went into the government, like I said. So I quit coaching.
How did you know when to quit? Because
I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. I was fired, and after being fired,
you can't go for another, company per se.
Oh, look, once you've been sacked 3 times, there's a message there.
Yeah.
I may be slow, but 3 times I thought, do I really want to do this anymore? Do I want to go through this? Like I said, it's not a safe employment and things like that, job. So I thought, so I quit the coaching, and to be honest with you, I was a little bit relieved, but I was also very disenchanted with a lot of things. I gave all my coaching books and things away. I said, I'm never going to do this again, and I went through anxiety and mild depression, not serious, but because I've gone from being active 7 days a week, and when you're a coach here for an NBL team, the public own you, and the media own you, and the owners are always ringing you up and things like that. You don't really have a life to yourself. And I, from being active all the time, that was all taken away from me. It was like, you're losing a relative and things like that. And I went downhill, and so I finally came back to it and started coaching young kids again and things like that, and which I enjoyed. And then it went from 1 day to 2 days, and then I started doing rep teams and things like that and whatever. And then I got disillusioned again. I didn't like politics in junior sport, and I was disenchanted, so I gave it away because I wasn't enjoying it. I believe in, if you don't believe in what you're working at or what you're doing, go and do something else, because if you're working in a company or an office and you're not happy being there, you're going to drag everyone down around you.
Yeah.
You will drag them down. And that's one of the things why I quit the government in the end, because they had a change of premier. But the big thing was I was tired of walking in there of a Monday morning and saying, oh, how you going, Karen? And you say, oh, I had a terrible weekend. I had a headache yesterday and my toe was ached. And they'd say, how do you feel, Brian? I said, look, I'm great every day. I'm just greater some days than the other. And they'd look at you, and I said, look, I don't want to come here every Monday and hear you saying this. Don't be like that. And you drag people down. So I thought, hey, it's time for me to move on. And I always wanted to do that, the basketball academy, and get out there and coach. I thought, maybe it's time for me to give something back so I can earn some money as well, but give something back to people, to young people, and not only young people. As you know, I look after the multicultural ladies session that we have, and which you've been a part of, but been very slack lately. But
tell you about that later.
I'll tell you. I know you're going to go to university,
Yeah.
Brian. Yeah, well, but and look, and that session every Friday is one of the best sessions that I'm involved in. Those ladies, they know they're never going to be Olympians, although I joke about that. I'm getting them ready for the next Olympics, as you know. But they are such great ladies. They look after each other. We got different nationalities there and things like that, and everybody supports each other there. And there's no one there complaining about this and that. They're all good women. And good people, and we had a breakup on Friday, which you didn't attend. And didn't even bring any cakes or send any cakes.
Next time.
But we sit down, and I sit down there, and my boys coach them, Max and Toby, and the ladies love them, and I used to do it, but I've passed some things over to my boys now. But that is a fun thing to do, and those ladies support me. They promote my
Brian's ladies, that's what we call them.
But it is a great thing in Fridays that to look forward to end the week on is with those ladies. So and look, if I can keep doing things like that, and like I'm keeping this program going. It's been going for 18 months, 2 years now, and I'll promise the ladies we've got enough funding till the end of this year, and I hope to get more funding. And because when we had to stop once before, we ran out of funding. Women were in tears and that. And I don't want to see that again, and I don't think we will. But now it's just fabulous, and now they got their own polo hoodies and their own
the
t-shirts,
branding.
the whole thing. Which you haven't bought one yet.
Brian has given me a lot of free merch to last the whole week. What can I say?
Well, all our small sizes go to you, Karen.
They're still too big.
But so my life is, I'm blessed in lots of ways. I'm not a religious man, but I am blessed, and I don't tell people what to do or what they should do. I think everyone has their own choices, and about everything that's going on, and the same in basketball. But as long as I can keep imparting some wisdom onto those people and supporting them and helping them, then I've been successful. And I know I've got 4 NBL titles to my name. I don't even know where the trophies are. Somebody's, I think they have been stolen. I lent them out and I never got them back. But but that's all right. But I've got the memories, and the memories are important. But what I've done, with Eric and Antoine and the young boys that I've helped at the detention centre, they're just as bigger victories to me as those things, and I look at those as great achievements, and gives me a lot of self-satisfaction, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's amazing. A different kind of satisfaction to know that you've helped one person and they will in turn help a lot many other people.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping one of those Indigenous boys will take over from me in the Indigenous program, to be honest with you. That's what I'd like to train up, but also, and a couple of them now come to all my Indigenous stuff that I do. We've got an Indigenous clinic on this weekend, and get these boys along there, and to take it over from Brian Kerle. I don't want, and my Indigenous programs aren't any. You never see my name, but they're Brian Kerle.
Yibba, Young Indigenous Boys.
Young Indigenous Basketball Academy. Yeah. So it's not about Brian Kerle, and that's important to me. But like I said, I've made a lot of friends there, and then I got some great Aboriginal Torres Strait Island friends, and I even call on some of them as mentoring me when I have some down times, and because one of the hardest things for me when I went through that depression and things, that it was very hard because I didn't want to tell anybody about it, because I'm Brian Kerle, and
what do you have to complain about?
Well, I'm supposed to be bulletproof, and and this is why men won't open up about this problem, and it is a big disease that we have in the society today. But you know, and now, you know, I have some that I call, and they're just very supportive to me, and they know when I'm down, and they can read it. And I've got an Indigenous friend in Melbourne. He's absolutely, we always message each other, are you okay, and things like that. So, you know, but yeah, look, one of the things I get down on now is that I wished I could do more. I'm not happy with what I do. Because I'm never satisfied. I'm an achiever, and I think I can do better, and I can do more for young people. And but I get frustrated that I can't. But it's going to happen, and I'm working on a few other things to make my basketball program a lot better than what it is. And young people are going to benefit from that when I get it going.
Yeah. Good things take patience, Brian. So.
Patience, what's that?
Yeah, good things take time, right? So be patient.
You got to be patient on the basketball courts. You know, you can't be rush. You know, like you and I told you to slow down.
Yeah, true. And a quick few questions before we wrap up. Yeah, so also, mental health is a very big topic. So I was wondering, did you have any, tips for people going through hard times, especially since COVID? Like, mental health has been like at an all-time low. And
well, last year I knew what it was like being locked down, and like I said, I've been an active person, and it was very hard for me and my sons and things like that. But you know, the thing, I said to the young boys the other day that one of my academy boys came to me and said, Brian, you know, can I talk to you? I've got some problems. And I said, yeah, mate. And the first thing I said to him, I said, look, mate, first of all, what you've done is you made me feel good that you've come to me and you want to talk about your issues. And I said, mate, it's between you and I I respect that. And I said, you know, what's your problem? And you know, he opened up to me, and I said, mate, you know, I know what it's like to not want to talk to people. I know what it's like. I've been through it. But mate, what you've done today is a big step. And it's the same thing with another young lad. I won't mention names, but he's been the same with me. And I said, hey, keep talking to us. If you don't want to talk to me, talk to Adam, Maxie, or Toby, or Marty, one of my coaches, and you know, we're always there for you. And don't be afraid to talk to us, you know, because I know what it's like, boys. And they trust me now, and you know, more of them are coming in and talking to us, and which, you know, I'm really proud of. I'm not qualified, but I think I can give them that human side of it anyway, and they know that I'm there. And like I said, you know, you can ring me at any time, or that door in my office, you know, it's always open.
Except closed for meetings.
That's it. No, so yeah, my life's been fruitful. It's been a life of up and downs, and but you know, life's what you make of it. And you know, many years ago in 1990, I had the privilege of meeting a young boy. He was 16 years of age, and his mum rang me up. You've seen the photo on my wall in my office. This young lad was 16, and his mother rang me up and said, Brian, my son has got cancer in the spine. I forget the terminology of it. And, but she said, Justin loves the Bullets. He loves what you do. And he was in the Wesley Hospital. We were at Auchenflower in those days. And would you come over and visit him? And I said, yeah, no problems. And went over there, and we finished up taking that young boy out to Burndall and to watch the games. He'd come in the change room after it. He changed my philosophy on life and some of my, because you know, I was all about wanting to win and desire to win and win at all costs and things like that. And he was a young fella that was going to lose his life, the biggest game of his life. Biggest game for him is his life, and I'm worried about losing the basketball grand final. And you know, he died a few weeks shy of his 17th birthday, and he, you know, it was a sad time, and we still remember him every January, every year. We have over lunch, and we raised over nearly $500,000 for a cancer fund that we set up for him, and those things there to me is another victory for me, that to have this boy and to have the privilege of meeting him, and to think that, you know, here I am worried about losing the game, but he lost his life. So that was meant to be, and he was sent to me for a reason, I think, and as much as I still like to win, it's not the be all and end all. It's not everything anymore to me. So so you know, but having the privilege to meet people like that is a real blessing, and I'm just so happy that, you know, I've had this opportunity to meet those sort of people, and I know I'll meet many more of them in my life, and I want to meet many more of them, and help them out as much as we can. So but like I said, I just wished I could do more, and somewhere I
but
would
there's you still wanting to, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, like I remember when I won the first basketball championship up here in 1980. Well, sorry, I missed in '84. We come second. I don't like that word. We ran out of time in the final. We lost by a point. And when we arrived back in Brisbane, there was about 6 people to greet us at the airport, and the president was one of them. And the first thing he said to me, he said, "Don't worry about losing it, Kerle." He said, "If you had won it this year, what would there be to achieve next year?"
Yeah, good one.
So I just said quite nicely to him, I said, "What's wrong with winning them 2 times in a row, or maybe 3 times in a row, and things like that?" But you know, but that's people, and I didn't have him around much longer, because, you know, he quit, because I like positive people around me. If you have negative people around you, they'll drag you down. Surround yourself with positive people. I got rid of somebody that worked with me last year voluntarily, and most negative person I've ever heard or seen, and toxic person, and she was bringing me down, so I just said, "Look, I don't need you anymore, I don't want you here anymore." It was a hard decision to make, but hey, it's either me or her, and I just said, you know, because, you know, like I said, you've got to be positive out there. Everything is, you know, don't think of the worst, and like I said, I just say I'm happy today, but I'm happier every day. I'm just happier some days more than others, and that's how I look at it. So, but no, life's been good, life's great, and I've met some good people along the way.
Yeah, but I guess optimism and realism are very hard to balance. Do people think you're a bit delusional, or how do you like manage being, you know, realistic at the same time but being optimistic, or do you think you veer in one direction more than the other?
Well, you know what they say, you know, you can wait for things to happen, or you can make things happen. I don't want to wait for things. I have anxiety, and I'm an anxious person. I annoy Toby because I want things to happen now, today. I don't want them to go on and on and on. And you know, I want to make it happen. And everything that I've done, I haven't sat back and I've gone out there and taken the risk, taken the gamble. But I knew I could do it. And I said to them when I took over the Brisbane Bullets, we were playing in a stadium where they had 200 people at a game. The first year there, we averaged 1,200 people when I came back, because I believed that that's what we could do. And we had 1,500 people there one night. I can only hold 800 legally. And then when we went to Chandler to play, and you know, they said, "Oh, you know, it's too big, you'll never fill it." We filled it, 4,000 people. And then when I went to Boonville, and they said, "Oh, what are you going out there for? You know, it's 13." I said, we'll go out there. We averaged 1,200 people the first year, and we had the biggest crowd in Australian history at the time, 12,500, 13,000 people. I believed that we could do it, and I made it happen. I didn't wait for it to happen. I made it happen, and that's what it's all about. You've got to believe in yourself, you know, follow your dream, and sometimes I don't dream about it, but you make it happen. And that's what I say to the kids. You know, if you want to train for 5 minutes, that's how good you're going to be. If you want to train for 5 hours, that's how much better you're going to be. If you want to train for 5 days, look how good you're going to be, and so on and so on. So, yeah, you can be what you want to be. Nobody can stop you. The only person to stop you is yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? Nobody can make you say you can't be anything. And like I said, if I hadn't have listened to those people about me playing in Melbourne, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have been coaching those kids today. I wouldn't have been talking to other people in different areas in life and things like that. That's what it's all about. It's that positivity and believing in yourself all the time, and you will be successful. Everyone will be successful. There's, nothing will stop you.
Yeah. But I guess the double-sided blade of the self-belief is that you believe it so much that the ups are exhilarating, but the lows also. But also some, to a great extent, wouldn't you think that like a player, they can train extremely hard, and then, but like, the end result, they still didn't win. It was still that one point. They slipped the things out of your control. How kind of...
Well, you see, that two-sided wedge, I don't even think of the coming down. I only think of it going up.
And that's when it hurts even more when you come down.
No,
right?
but I don't think of coming down.
But
That's why I never come down. No.
But when it comes down, like maybe
But
when
why
you
does it
didn't
come
win.
down? Because you think it may come down, but I don't think of that.
Oh, but
I
I
only
mean,
think
like,
of being successful.
But when you when the match is lost, is that a coming down?
No, it's a disappointment, but it's not coming down. You've got another game the next day, so you can get, win. You're not going to win all the time.
Yeah.
That's impossible. You want to dream that, you can dream it, but it's not going to happen, and that's not being not confident in yourself, but that's just a way of things. Some of the best people, and you saw at the Olympics, were some of the people that they said were unbeatable, got beaten at the Olympics. Because maybe they had an off day, maybe they weren't feeling well. But that doesn't mean to say they're coming down here. They'll get over that, and the two champions will come back. And I never even think of coming second or anything like that. It doesn't matter who I play, and I was taught this, and I've played against some of the best players in the world, and I've coached against some of the best players in the world. But I believe that they get out of bed the same way as I do. They clean their teeth the same way as I do. And they put their socks on the best way, and things like that. So they're no better than you. But everyone says it's a good friend of mine, Bruce Palmer. He coached a QSL, which is the second tier of state basketball here. His team, he had a young team of kids, and he battled and battled and battled. He played against a team that were undefeated all season in the grand final. Bruce beat him. Because Bruce believes in himself. He's a great coach and things like that. But people didn't think he could win. And I said to him today, I said, Bruce, don't worry about what they're like, how good they are. You can do it. And it's the same with the team my son played with at Logan. They went through the season, lost one game. They won the they got through to the semi-final, and they played Cairns. They hadn't lost a game. And this Cairns team, three of their best players didn't play. They lost by 29 to them, and they're out of the grand final. Boom, like that. Because they were complacent and things like that. Oh yeah, they thought they'd win, but it was the wrong thinking about they were going to win. You can't be over cocky and disrespectful. One of my favourite things that was said to me: respect everybody but fear none.
Ah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's true. But I guess I'm kind of curious. Did you ever have to tell someone that they were, I don't know, not good enough for the Olympics? So for example, if maybe one of the people in that multicultural, they're like, Brian, I'm going to be an Olympian. You told me I can do anything. What would you say to someone like that? Because
I said, I will say to them, it's good to have a goal, a dream, and a dream, and that there's nothing negative about a dream, and it's good to have that. But as long as you know that you have given it your best shot, you have put, that's like me. I made all the sacrifices in the world to get to the Olympics. I wanted to do the Olympics. I had a son, my eldest son Simon, was born, and my wife was working and things like that. So I had a family that I had to support as well, but I had the support of that family too, and you know, but nothing was going to stop me from playing for Australia. The only one that would stop me is me. No one was going to stop me because I wanted to do that. And now I tell kids about that, you know. But, you know, and I said to them today, you know, there's 40 kids there. I said, hey, I know you all come here because you want to be an Olympian, all right? You're not all going to be Olympians, but be the best that you can be. Be the best that you can be, all right? So every 4 years, there's 10 players get picked for an Olympic team. You know how many basketballers are in Australia?
No, blew my mind.
Thousands and thousands and thousands, all right? So you're in a very elite field there, and you have to be something special, and you're going to have to work and work. But it's great to have that dream, you know. But as long as you know, at the end of your journey, if you don't make it to the Olympics, you gave it your best shot.
Yeah, and you would be happy with that.
Yeah, be happy with that, yeah. You say, okay, I wasn't good enough in the end. But you believed you were, but in fact, there were other players that were better than you.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Not everyone can be an Olympian, and an unfortunate.
But you can all dream about it. You can all dream about it, but don't let anybody tell you know that you can't do it. Walt Disney was told he got fired from the newspaper because he didn't have any good ideas. All right. Okay.
Irony.
That's Walt Disney. Michael Jordan was told you better get back into school. He'll never make it in basketball. But see, someone was trying to tell them what they can do. But did they listen to them? No. And there was Edison, I think, was another one who was told, you know, there's a lot of people done that. Too many people, you know. There's a good friend of mine, and he played cricket for Australia, Matty Hayden. He was told he wasn't good enough to go to the top academy of cricket in Australia, that he would never. He was one of the greatest batsmen we've ever had. You know, he didn't listen to those people, and that's what I mean. You know, but he knew that what he believed in himself, and look what he achieved. He held the world record for the most runs at one stage. So there's things like that. People beat themselves. Not the opposition. People beat themselves. You know, didn't matter who I went out there and played against. I respected him, but I didn't fear him.
But did you ever find anything that, I don't know, cost you too much? Because I feel like there's always a price for everything, and to work extremely hard on other facets of life, you have to, I don't know, give up. Can't hang out with your friends. Can't, you know, nothing can be very.
But I missed out on all that. But
was it worth
I'm happy with
it? I don't know, the injury.
Yes, it was worth it. But even if I didn't make it, it still would have been worth it, because I knew I gave it my best effort. If I hadn't given it my best effort, I said, Brian, you didn't deserve to be in there. You know, and that's where a lot of people go wrong in what they do. They think it's an easy path, you know. But if you once, like I said, and I talked to a lot of kids that are trying out for rep teams and things like that. Hey, this is what you got to do. Don't worry about being the best shooter out there. Do the other things. You know, communicate. Dive on loose balls, rebound, run, look enthusiastic, look the coach in the eye, volunteer for I want to play to demonstrate it. You know, if you don't do that, you know, body language means a lot in life. A lot of kids don't make teams because of their body language. They don't look like they want to be there. They do want to be there, but they don't look like they want to be there. They tell you they want to be there, but show me you want to be there. Show me you got the energy, you know, that passion to be there. That's the important thing.
Cool. Just two final questions to wrap up. One is, I guess, what do you want people to remember you for? Like when they think of Brian Kerle, what, in a few words, if you can condense it down that far?
I just would like them to think of me as Brian Kerle, as a human being, a normal person, generous in his time, for his time, and a caring person, you know. And I am an emotional person. Like I said, you know, today when young Eric came in, that's what I'd like to be remembered. Like, you know, Brian Kerle, okay, basketball got to me where I am today and has made me what I am, but it's made me a better person, and I'm a giving person. I wished I could give more and help people more, you know, but a lot of people recognise that now and thank me, especially on Facebook, and which makes me very proud of the fact that people do. I don't seek recognition.
Yeah.
I don't seek recognition at all. And there's a lot of things, a lot of people still don't know what I do for people and stuff like that, and how I assist people, but I'll keep on doing that. You know how like I give 500 or 600 pair of second-hand shoes away a year, because nobody should be walking around barefoot. So, but you know, I don't think that's a big deal. I think everybody should look after each other, and nobody should be hungry in this world. And no, definitely, you know, we all should be able to wear shoes. Not that I've got shoes on.
Have socks on right now.
But you know, that's what I'd like to be remembered of. Somebody that I've helped people. You know, Danny Morsu is a great success story of me. How I got him into 2 Olympics, a Thursday Island boy, and picked him up at 16, and he lived with me in Melbourne for 9 months. He worked for me. We put him through Footscray technology, and you know, he ended up with a very good job and one of Australia's great athletes and things like that. Very good friend of mine. You know, it's things like that, helping those sort of people. Like I said, I don't do it for glory. I don't do it for recognition and things like that. But to me, I think if we can all help one person in the world, what sort of a world would we live in?
Yeah, a much more beautiful one.
It would be, you know, and I hope, you know, that, you know, like I've helped migrants come over, you know, and our friend Lisi, and how
it's called Lies, by the way.
Well, she answers to Lisi to me. You know, but you know how lovely she is, and when she came to us, and you know, that to me is a win to me too, and like she's just a dear friend to me now, and like I just love seeing her whenever we can. I'm good to see her working for a job, but to know what she went through and things like that with her family, to come here and live, and there's 3 Syrian boys that, you know, I've got into basketball and encouraged them, and they're playing in teams now. We've got them their registrations paid and things like that, and they're the things that to me are fantastic, you know, and setting up that Justin Cameron Cancer Appeal, raising money for that, and helping people to research for cancer and things like that at the Wesley Hospital. They're the things I like to talk about just as much as the Olympics and things like that, to be honest with you, because to me they've all been wins for me, they've all been achievements for me. Not that it's all about winning, but it's a winning in a different way, and I think that's important, that we as humans, we all try and help somebody or something in a way to make this a better world to live in. And this world's not in a good state at the moment, and we need to all pull together to make it a better place to live. And I'm sure it will happen, and I think people maybe one day will come to their senses, and we all live in peace and harmony. But if I can do a little bit for that now, and you know, helping our African young people that have come out here, and with basketball, which I'm helping one young boy at the moment. He's in year 11 at Sunnybank High School, trying to help him a lot. And, he's got dreams about basketball as well, and but he's a good student also. So, and you know, encouraging those kids to stay in school, I think is a major win for me. So.
Yeah. So
see, I've learned by I know my mistakes.
Everyone stay in school.
Well, but the trouble is, Karen, and it's the same as me, you know, we all want to try everything out and fail at it or do the wrong thing instead of listening to people. We could save ourselves a lot of time in life. But no, I'm 16, I know everything, don't tell me what to do. But hey, if I can say, hey, this is what we've been through the experience. Save yourself those hours and hours and hours and do something else that you want to do. But listen, but we don't want to listen. We've got to try it. I'm not saying everybody, but a big majority.
But human nature, to be honest.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you only learn from the mistakes that you make, right? Otherwise, you don't actually feel it. Yeah, so Brian, you've been through quite a lot. So what makes a good life? What's the recipe? What's the ingredients that you see?
Live a healthy life, of course.
Health as well.
Yeah, and I think exercise. A strong mind is a strong body. There's no doubt about that. But look at the person next to you and see if we're all there. And I tell all our kids, hey, check on each other, guys. Yeah. Check on each other. We're here. We all got to be mates. We all got to be friends. Look after each other. And that's important that we do that. And I think if we can do that, that's going to improve the world a heck of a lot more. And it's getting understanding, get rid of the ignorance in the world. Ignorance is the biggest problem of all. Like I said, I went to this dinner the other night with this Indian cricket club, and they treated me, well, it was a bit embarrassing at times. But I loved it, but I didn't expect it, and I didn't want it, but I appreciated it. I know that might sound a little bit juggled up, but I did. But those people were such lovely people to me, and I asked them questions about themselves and things like that. But I think let's help each other more, support each other more, and learn to live together. That's the biggest message I've got. Learn to live together, please. And if we can do that, boy, oh boy, we're going to be all right. This world will be in great hands for a long, long time. And the young people like yourself, you've got a big responsibility in the rest of your life. And I'm not putting that on you as a burden or a challenge. I'm saying that, it's up to you people to carry on the legacy of a lot of other people. And I know that you can do it, and it's not as if you want to. You can do it, things like that. Yeah. That want word is important. You've got to want to do things and stuff like that. I want to do a lot more. I'm never happy. Like I said, if I want to keep doing more and better things, and we've got some big things planned in the future, and they come off. It's going to be very great for me, and I want to leave that as a legacy of myself virtually for a lot of young people. So that'll be great. Yeah. And your camera's just gone off.
Shoot. Okay. Well, gee, I wanted to ask.
9:45.
Yeah. Wait. I actually wanted to ask you quickly. Like, how was your experience being on this podcast? Because my camera's dying, but I wanted to know.
Well, I love doing these things, and and the thing I love about it is it brings back memories to me.
Yeah.
Because I forget half the time what I've done.
I can see you looking in the distance sometimes.
Well, I said, did I really do all that?
Yeah.
And all I ended up. But you've only heard
half of it.
Well, not even half of it. But you, and that's it, because there's so many different chapters in my life and so many experiences that I've had around the world, in meeting people and things like that. But unless I do things like this, I forget about them for some reason, because like I said, I don't live on it. I don't live on it. I'm always wanting to move on to that next thing, but. I think, geez, did I really do that? And where's all the time gone? So that's the big thing. It's interesting that, but I do. I'm thinking myself. That's why I lost my thought there a couple of times, because I'm thinking, did I really do all that? And I thought, gee, So it's good to sit down. Like I said, I've done a few this year, and
reflect almost.
Reflect is a great way, and actually, tomorrow, for instance, I've got to get up early. I'm going to Noosa. I've got one of my players' father passed away on the weekend, so the funeral's tomorrow. But and Larry and we'll talk while we're up there, and we'll talk about the past and things like that. Larry, he played in 4 Olympic Games, and I took him down to Melbourne. He played for me with Danny at the time, you know, and he's now working up there, but his dad was 92 years of age. But yeah, so it's great talking about it. It was great catching up with Paddy Mills, because you talked about, and Paddy was talking about the past, and Danny and I were talking about the past, and Leroy Loggins, we get together, we talk about the past and things like that and what we did, and you know, Leroy tells a story about how I helped him, saved his life as well, in getting him back here. But I didn't even think of that, and Leroy was the one that reminded me about it, and he said, Kerle, you did, and that sort of stuck in that, you know, but like I said, you know, you just keep going on, and you don't stop when you help one person.
Yeah, keep it going. Yeah, okay.
Keep
Want
it
to say
going.
bye?
Bye, everybody.
Bye.